Dad's been in the public eye for years now, and his sudden disappearance was definitely noticed. He disappeared due to a benzodiazepine dependency. We both thought explaining what's gone on in the last year could help other people avoid the same hell that we're just, hopefully, barely getting out of. Hi, Dad.
Hi, kiddo.
It's really nice to be doing a family update with you rather than about you.
Yeah. Well, it feels like a good thing from this end of the universe as well.
Good. Well, in the most Canadian fashion I can muster, what the hell happened, eh?
Right. That's what people were asking online, eh? Right. What happened? I took the benzodiazepine the way that it was prescribed, twice a day, 0.25 milligrams. I never really thought about it again. You know, I thought that it was a relatively harmless drug, and I was taking it in a prescribed fashion at not too high a dose. And what I knew about benzodiazepines was that they were comparatively safe compared to barbiturates, which they basically replaced. But that's much less true than everybody who's taking them hopes. And they're very widely prescribed. And I don't remember what the probability of developing a dependency on them is if you take them for more than 2 weeks. It's 50%, I believe.
It's something like 50%.
Yeah, if you take them for 2 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and over 4 weeks, it's much, much higher.
Right.
And most people prescribe them, stay on them for life. And that could have something to do with the fact that they're very difficult to get off of.
Yeah, well, it was unbelievably unpleasant. I mean, it was unbearably unpleasant. And so I started tapering off when Tammy was in the hospital, but I couldn't push that too fast because it wasn't bearable.
And what do you mean it wasn't
bearable?
Well,
my anxiety levels went higher than anything I'd ever experienced. And I also developed this condition called akathisia. And the best way I can describe that is that it was like being jabbed with something, with a prod, like a cattle prod, something electric or something sharp, nonstop for hours, for all the hours I was awake. It was absolutely, I couldn't sit or lay down or stop moving. And even if I did get up and move, it wasn't like that made it better. I just couldn't stop doing it. It was horrible. Akathisia is horrible. It's like being whipped. That's another way of thinking about it.
I put out the first family update we did was when you went to the first rehab center in the States. And after I put that out and said, this is what's going on, I had hundreds, if not thousands of people respond, telling me how horrible benzodiazepine withdrawal could be, how they couldn't work, how they were pacing around their backyards for a year. And they basically said, just keep him alive, make sure he stays alive.
The psychiatrists that I spoke with said, you know, when I asked them how long the akathisia was likely to last, they said, well, it could be 2 years. And I thought, no one could live like this for 2 years. It's like, you can't live for 2 years if you're being constantly prodded with something excruciatingly painful on a moment-to-moment basis. It's just not, and there's no escape, there's no relief. That's just not possible. It wasn't possible. The reason I did survive certainly wasn't because I was enjoying my life. The reason is that I had family that I was very attached to and friends who went above and beyond the call of duty, helping to care for me. But the experience was intolerably dreadful.
You were suffering so much that anyone around you suffered.
Yes.
Because of how horrible it was to watch. It was horrible. I had people message me after the video in September saying they'd gotten off of multiple drugs, and that benzodiazepines had been the most difficult by far. Mm-hmm. People with experience with opiates as well, or heroin or something, said benzodiazepine was a completely different.
Well, I'd had bouts of depression before last fall, let's say, in my life. And I would have to say those were among the worst experiences of my life. But I'd have to say that After searching long and hard for something that was worse than depression, I finally discovered it in akathisia. Well, with severe depression, you lose positive emotion and gain a lot of negative emotion. But with this akathisia, it was like all of the negative emotion associated with depression, plus a very high level of anxiety, plus no positive emotion at all, plus the inability to ever relax, even for a moment. And so it was.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it. It's no overstatement to say that for me, the consequence of benzodiazepine withdrawal were worse than death. You know, you don't want to say something like that lightly, but there were lots of times, plenty of times when it would have been preferable, as far as I could tell, just not to be there. Well, this is part of the reason we're doing this podcast or video as well, to let people know these are very widely prescribed drugs, and they are not safe to take for more than 2 weeks or a month at the absolute maximum. And if you take them longer than that and you end up addicted, or dependent, which means that you'll suffer withdrawal symptoms on their cessation, you are going to be one sorry person. Some people, have a better time of it when they stop their use than others. But enough people have a terrible time so that it's an absolute, it's a medically induced epidemic. It's a complete bloody catastrophe.
Yeah.
It's probably worse than the opiate epidemic, and that's really saying something. So, and I don't know if I'm out of it or not. I have a hard time believing how much better I feel than I did 2 weeks ago. It doesn't seem plausible. So, it's possible that things will just deteriorate for me again, although I don't feel like that at the moment. I feel like things are put back together in an important way. So far, so good. It's been nice to see you and Andre get a break for at least a couple of weeks. And it's been really nice not to be terrified out of my mind in Florida, the best I ever got was not petrified with anxiety, but close to it. And yeah. I had that for a few days in a row, a couple of times. Well, thank you for talking with me.
Well, thanks for being here. It's been a hell of a year.
Thanks for your help too.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to give up.